Okay, everyone, welcome back to MVP Baseball 2005. It is officially the 31st here. We have a game today, which is going to end the month, obviously, but more importantly, it is the deadline. So, as I said in the last video, I know this one took a little bit longer. I woke up Wednesday to record it, to upload it, but got up a little too late to where I couldn't finish the video before I had to leave. So here it is today instead. Hopefully no one minds. But either way, it is the deadline video. So what we're going to do in the deadline video, normally in each season we do some kind of a farm system review, which I guess we'll just look at the overview of each of our farm teams as if that truly matters. We'll see how they're all doing respectively in their respective leagues. But more importantly, we're going to be going through our 2 seasons worth of draft picks and see where, or how rather, all of our draft picks are currently doing down on the farm. That's the big meat of this video. The rest of this video is going to be, I'm gonna see if I can work some trades. I don't even think I've set a trade block because, to be completely honest with you, I don't really know who I would really be okay with moving from. I mean, if we make any trades this season, it's probably going to be more so trying to acquire with prospects rather than move some people. I do think there are some players, like if Brendan Harris is someone we can move off from, because we'll find out why in a second. I've already kind of flipped through our prospects, but if Brendan Harris is someone that we can move on from, then I think that's something I will look to do. And that's someone that we can afford to move. And then, some of the outfield depth, we have kind of a logjam between the farm and on the major league roster with the outfield. Like, hey, maybe there's something that could be acquired by moving someone like a Terminal Sledge even though I love what Terminal Sledge is for this team here. But for guys like Nate Bruce and a couple other, or 1 or 2 other outfield prospects in New Orleans, it might be good to clear up the space with Terminal Sledge, because we're obviously not going to get rid of someone like Jose Guillen or Andy Chavez, you know what I mean? So the Terminal Sledge might be the guy that we look at. But either way, the biggest thing that we have to fix is pitching, right? Like, our pitching needs to get better here. So our rotation hasn't even performed that bad so much through the first few months. Obviously, the weakest link is still CC Sabathia, but even up until the month of July, he was still having a pretty decent season with an ERA under 4. So, but the rotation isn't so much the biggest part. I mean, Sungwoo Kim is probably someone who needs to be replaced as well, so maybe if we could move him for like a nothing prospect, that might happen. Only if we could replace his spot. If we can't replace his spot, then we're just going to leave him there. But and then in the pen, I feel confident about our pen. We have enough higher leverage guys to kind of rely on here, and some of these guys are even emergency kind of starter guys. Like Chris Ponce, we could spot start if we had to. Same with Claudio Vargas. I don't want to because they're not that good, but we could if we had to. So, but I feel like we just need another really just solid arm. At least 1, maybe 2 at the most. Really solid arms. If we could get like a good starter or kind of get like another kind of clutcher, honestly, like another Jeff Bennett. If I can make another Jeff Bennett type trade, then absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, I will absolutely make that kind of move because I think that will really help us. But for now, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at our prospects. So it's not going to be much of a particular order. I was thinking about just kind of pausing and cutting around and trying to make it a little bit more structured here, but since I'm freely speaking on the mic here, I figured we'll just flip right on through. So, but because a lot of our prospects from the first year are already sitting here in New Orleans, like Woody Cordero. Woody Cordero was our first pick that we ever drafted, and he is one of our best prospects. So he's currently lighting things up in New Orleans. It looks like he might be ready to come up and play with the Nationals probably at the end of the season. Which is kind of why I was talking about maybe trading someone like Terminal Sledge, because even his second position is third, and that'd be massive, bro, to have a bench third baseman, or just be able to move Woody between third and the outfield would be humongous, man, because I think third is already kind of a bit of a hole that we have, and we found a really stable consistency of play between Christian Guzman, Wes King, and Jose Vidro. I was blanking. in Jose Vidro. But again, we have to remember that third is not Christian Guzman's position, and it's not currently listed as a position that he can play. So I haven't looked at any defensive metrics or paid attention too much to the errors per game that we're getting, but I would imagine it's probably contributing quite a bit. So if we had a dedicated third baseman actually playing third, and especially one that could also double as another outfielder, that would be amazing. And so if Woody Cordero can continue to hit like this in the majors, that would be freaking sick. So, but that is how he is currently developing. He's doing very well in New Orleans. This is our first ever pick that we had. So, trying to find some of the other guys because we have a lot of prospects just kind of spread out here. So, there's not too many that are split between. And we have obviously some pitchers as well, but we have a couple more picks on Harrisburg here. So like Craig Ishii was the 5th round pick from our first ever draft, and he's doing okay, I guess. He's just kind of hitting average. He's a utility guy, so that would be kind of nice to have, I guess. Maybe in the future when maybe Christian Guzman's not around, you know what I mean? Like that might be a kind of role for Craig Ishii. But either way, he could also be just a trade piece because, we really don't have a need for him. And if he's ready to play within the next year or two, then he's definitely probably more valuable to us as a trade asset rather than an actual future utility guy in our infield. I would like to have a utility guy because I really don't feel like we have one. Henry Mateo or Jorge Mateo on New Orleans, as you saw as the leadoff hitter in New Orleans, was kind of that guy last year, but we didn't really have a lot of opportunities to get him to play. So maybe developing our own like Craig Ishii would be a lot more beneficial, but he still kind of seems like maybe a little bit of ways. He's not hitting that well in Harrisburg to where I'm super, super confident in how that's going to go. So, but right above him in the lineup, Buddy Capel is a shortstop who's moved to first base. So he's also kind of an infield person here. He can kind of play all over the infield. He is hitting a lot better. So it looks like he might be budding to move up to New Orleans as well. That might be a move that we could make potentially. But he is our 6th round pick from the first draft here, and he is hitting a little bit better than Craig Ishii is. I think the both of them were kind of sitting in the infield in Portsmouth last year, playing for the Cannons, and neither of them were really hitting that well. So it's good to see that Buddy Capel is actually hitting decently well in his 2nd year of pro ball. I'm happy to see that. So moving around, because we have some people across our team from both drafts just kind of sitting around. Like, for example, we have Greg Knott, who was drafted 4th in our 2nd draft. He's kind of been the backup catcher here in Harrisburg, and he's not doing terrible, but as you can see, the hit number, he's got kind of a limited sample size, so he hasn't really seen much of the field, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Maybe if there's a chance for him to play more down in single A, that might be what we do. I'm not sure what the backup catcher situation is currently in New Orleans. Maybe looks like they might just be rocking with Kazi Yoshida, who I originally brought in to be the backup catcher in Washington. So, maybe that is something that could happen. I'm not too sure. Maybe we could move him around. It's possible. It certainly is possible. So, Wes Rodriguez is another prospect here. He was our 7th round pick in the first year draft, and he's not hitting super well either. Sample size again, kind of small, but no, that's still kind of low even for that small sample. So he's not hitting super well. He's just kind of a bench bat, I guess. Not really doing a whole lot that I guess we really need to focus on and write home on. Justin Bradford, another prospect that we've drafted here. He was the 5th round pick in the 2nd draft. He's hitting decently well. Not too bad. Again, the numbers are kind of average. He's someone who probably could spend the rest of his year down here in Double-A, just kind of, keep getting the reps in, keep getting the at-bats, and just see where he is heading into next season. He might be a big piece in New Orleans next year, I like him as an outfield prospect. He's someone that I guess we could look to. You know what I mean? Christian Harville is another pick. He's our 3rd round pick from the 2nd draft, from last year's draft, and he's hitting again kind of consistently right along with Bradford. They're both kind of hitting in a similar vein here, putting up around the same numbers. So looks like we have a pretty consistently hitting outfield here in Harrisburg. Even though Harville is currently playing 3rd, he's doubling as a third baseman, even though he's not an everyday third baseman. So maybe they're just trying to find a spot for him to play here, and that's why Wes Rodriguez is kind of the bench guy. I don't know. That seems to be what's happening because Luke Jackson is another pick that we have. He's our sixth-round pick from the 2006 draft. And he is, a second baseman who's currently playing out in the outfield, but he's hitting very, very well. He might be another move that could go up to New Orleans here. So it's already looking like we have a little bit of maybe not definitive promotions and demotions that we could be making, but the way that our farm is kind of set up right now, we got some talent that seems to be budding here that doesn't have a lot of room to grow. So that's something I guess I need to look at, because if Luke Jackson is ready to go to New Orleans, I'm not sure if there's necessarily a spot in New Orleans for him to go and make an immediate impact. So he might just be better off just continuing to build himself and boost his stats down here in AA. So. And then another Matthew Hidalgo. Jeez, man. He's the seventh-round pick from last year's draft, and he's another guy who's hitting pretty well, another guy who can just kind of play in the outfield and is also a good infield prospect as well. So Harrisburg really has a lot of my favorite guys on it, man. This team is really kind of our draft team. This AA roster is really kind of where everyone that I've drafted, for the most part, is gone. That's where most of our guys are, so we can kind of rest assured, feel good about that. At least I feel a little bit good about that. Now remember, we have had a couple retirements from baseball. I think we've had two prospects already retire, but not one of them is not Josue. Josue Bellinger is the catcher that I drafted in the fourth round of our first draft. And, I mean, again, just decent numbers here. I don't know if he's going to blossom much out of AA, but it's what he's doing right now. Is just chilling right here, putting up some decent numbers. So looks like Harrisburg should be a little bit better of a team than they might be. I'm not sure what the record is. I guess we'll look at it after we go through the rosters. But for right now, these guys aren't doing terrible. So, but I guess now we're gonna go down to Portsmouth here because this is the last of our prospects. So Aubrey Randall is the 8th-round pick from last year's draft. He's 20 years old, playing down in single A, and he's not really tearing the cover off the ball or anything. Again, just average numbers, nothing to be too upset about, but you'd like to see maybe a little bit more considering all the 20-year-olds that we have, 21-year-olds that we've drafted in the last couple of years that are currently making a difference in AA and AAA. You'd like to see maybe a little bit more from him, but who knows? He might be better after a year of playing some pro ball. I'm not going to worry too terribly much about it here. And then we have Justin Hinchcliffe, who was the 9th-round pick from last year's draft. And he's looks like he's a bench bat, but he is hitting very, very well. At age 19, he should probably be an everyday guy, if we're being completely honest. He might be slotted into some of these lineups here if I flip through, but he hasn't played too terribly much, but it looks like maybe he's hitting for average, certainly, but not doing a whole lot else. So maybe if he could play every day, we might see that blossom a little bit more. And then, speaking of more, Niall Moore was the 10th pick of last year's draft, and he is struggling quite a bit. He's not hitting very well much at all. So that's not great. He's 21 and he's not hitting well in single A, so that's not a good. But it's the 10th pick, so I guess we can't be super upset. He's the 10th pick. It is what it is. So I think that's about it as far as hitting goes. As I'm looking through our list, and I think everyone else is on the pitching side. So let us go to the pitching rotation and look through some of these guys if we can. So the first one we got to find here, if we can find them, because they're all kind of scattered around here. The game's done what it's wanted to. So Mike Grace was a starting pitching prospect that I drafted first overall in last year's draft, and he's already here in New Orleans doing pretty well. He's pitched 120 innings so far in New Orleans. He's got a 3.21 ERA. I mean, I don't want to fast track this guy to Washington, but this could be the pitching solution that we've been waiting for. It looks like maybe Michael Grace and Woody Cordero might be the September call-ups here. We might be making room here in September to fit these guys on a roster that's trying to make a playoff push, because these guys might be able to make some pretty drastic impacts on the team here pretty early on, especially with numbers like that. So looking through the rest, I mean, there's probably a lot of familiar faces from the first year or so of the team that you are used to or that you've seen before. But yeah, a lot of them are just rotting away down here in New Orleans. Brian Strutz was the second round pick in our first draft, and he's doing okay, I guess. At 21, again, you'd like to see a little bit more from him. I would like to see him pitching better, especially in New Orleans, not in Harrisburg. An ERA that's climbing close to 4 over 112 innings isn't great here. At least he's getting some starter innings. The walk numbers are low, so I'm not super upset with that here. But again, at 21, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more from him, but I think he might be fine after this season is over. Bobby Parra is the second-round pick from last year's draft. So we have both second-round picks just sitting right beside each other in the rotation here in Harrisburg. But a year younger, and his numbers are looking a little bit more impressive here. He's got a few more walks, a handful of walks more than Strutz does, but the strikeout numbers are about the same. The ERA is about, 0.3 of a run less than Strutz is, and about two innings less. So it's about the same amount of workload. Or no, it's actually about six and 2/3 innings more than Strutz has pitched this season. So the workload is about the same here, and the numbers are pretty similar, but there's a year apart that separates them. So that is how these guys are pairing up, our second-round picks. And I think for the most part, that is most of, if not all, of our pitching situation. I think that's about it. Looking through, or our prospect situation. Portsmouth does not have a bullpen at all. Interesting. But the starting rotation is sick. Look at that. Look at all these guys. Oh, my good lord. Oh, yeah, he's 23. He shouldn't even be pitching down here. Yeah, see, this is the stuff. Look at all these guys, these aging vets that we have sitting here. I don't even know if they are prospects. I mean, hey, maybe we could trade some of those. I mean, we need pitching prospects, so I don't know if I could just let these guys rot here, but clearly they've been left to time here. But I think we're doing all right. Either way, any other prospect that's on the list, there's a few here names that I didn't see, and I'm guessing they're all retired here. I already checked the injury list, and they're not on it, so I think, yeah, these guys they're gone. I think they're gone forever. They're lost to time. So we will look at, I guess, the standings here for each team here. So New Orleans is currently 58 and 52, and they are second in their division in the Pacific Coast League. Harrisburg is currently 49 and 60. They're not doing that well. With the offense that we saw, maybe you'd think they would be hitting a little bit better, but I guess they're not. Looking at their rankings, I can back out and go to their rankings. You can see. So they're 10th. They have the 10th best rotation in the league, but their offense is actually pretty bad. But fielding-wise, they're very, very good, and then they're a terrible team base running-wise. So that's, I guess, maybe where the issues for Harrisburg is. So I guess they don't hit as well as we think that they do, and they certainly do not run the base paths as effectively maybe as they should. So, and then looking at the Cannons, well, maybe we can see. So in the first half, they were 36 and 34, and in the second half, they're already off to a pretty weak start. So maybe it looks like their season's not getting off to the best of starts here. But their pitching staff is 10th in the league. They have the worst offense in the entire league, and then they're 29th in fielding and 25th base running. So yeah, our single A team is pretty bad. But so I mean, New Orleans is really a tale of two sides here, man. They're second in pitching. We're the second best pitching staff here. The offense is kind of bottom half. Worst team fielding wise, but really aggressive on the base pass. So that's kind of how these guys have really shaken up. So I guess the last order of business that we will do here is I'm going to go through the trade market. I'm going to see if I can cook up anything, and then I'll cut back in if we have any kind of move that I think will help the team out. Okay, all right. So I wasn't sure if the trade was going to go through when I hit X, but it did. So here is the big trade that I just made. I just cooked up. Your GM out here cooking up. I didn't really like the trade here, but I think it was the only way I was going to be able to get it to go through. So first of order of business here, we're gonna have to move some guys around. So that's what we're gonna do here. Hold on. All right, everyone, here we go. So here is the move that we have just made in acquiring. So We just got Travis Harper from the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He's 31 here. He's pretty inexpensive. He's only making like 1.6 million. We definitely had the money to acquire him, so I did. In over 115 innings pitched here, he's got a 3.21 ERA. Walk number's pretty low. He's only 3 strikeouts from 100. He was a really serviceable reliever here. One of the best pitchers on the trade block. And unfortunately, what I had to give up was Craig Ishii, and I gave up Strutz as well. Our second-round pick from our first-year draft and our fifth-round pick from our first-year draft. I tried to throw in another just kind of whatever. One of those older pitchers down in single A is just kind of wasting away. I tried to throw them in with Craig Ishii. Craig Ishii I knew that we probably wouldn't have much of a use for in our infield. I think we already kind of have a good foundation of an infield at the major league level, and I already saw at least one or two other infield prospects that I kind of liked more than Ishii, or at least as much as Ishii, so I was fine parting ways with him. And then as we just discussed going over Strutz's numbers, they're kind of about a year behind. I kind of want to see more from Strutz, and so hanging on. I looked at all these prospects that we have with that kind of average numbers. I'm like, we could definitely hang on to some of these guys, but like I don't necessarily think that we're going to see a whole lot of production from them. So I'm going to try and bolster the major league team right now while we can, because winning is the most important thing for us right now in this third year, where we're so close to completing a lot of our goals, and of course one of them is going to the postseason. So if we can really strengthen this team even a little bit, I think we'll be in a good position to come back for a fourth and hopefully more seasons. So I like the Travis Harper trade. The last thing I'm going to try and do before I end this video is I'm going to see if I can't move one of our pieces on the major league team to try and get some prospect depth. Maybe we could rebuild a little bit more of what we just lost to get Harper here. All right, so another trade is completed, and I have some unfortunate news for everyone. Terminal Sledge is officially no longer a Washington National. That's right, I have moved off of Terminal Sledge in exchange for a pitching and an infield prospect. And so I've grabbed Ivan Franco here from the Toronto Blue Jays. These are his numbers through his season right now in Double-A. He's hitting the cover off the ball pretty well, so I figured we could just bring him in, kind of replace what we lost in Craig Ishii in exchange for kind of a platoon pinch hit kind of bat that we haven't really used in an everyday setting, and that kind of clears the path now for someone like Nate Bruce to play every day, or of course Woody Cordero. Now the space is open for him if he is to come up and join the team at any point in the next couple months. So that was kind of the thought process behind there. And then on the pitching side of things, we will also now look. We have added Brent Nielsen. So Brent Nielsen, it's reset his pitching stats, unfortunately, which is frustrating for me. But yeah, so he was another pitching prospect from Toronto, one of their better pitching prospects. He had really good numbers on the year here, but he is 26. So if there's a place for him in New Orleans, then that would be probably what we need to do. But for right now, I just wanted to get a couple of younger guys here in the system here in exchange of getting Terminal Sledge off the books here. He was 30, and he's hitting pretty darn well for a guy making as little money as he is. So that was kind of I guess just a value thing there that I could see us getting from him, because we have the space here on the Major League roster for someone to replace Terminal Sledge's production, and so that's exactly kind of what we're doing, is trying to do that, is trying to cash in on all of that. So there's some other moves I think I probably could make, because I feel like now we have like a log jam in Double-A. At least it felt like we did between our infielders. A lot of people who could be playing infield right now, but they're all kind of spaced out here, spread kind of thin. I know Portsmouth is really kind of struggling in terms of just getting any sort of talent on it, but I think for now, I think we're probably good with where we're at. Someone like Henry Mateo is another one where I'm like, dude, we could probably trade Henry Mateo and get some kind of anything for him, and clear up a spot maybe for Pete Trentooth to play every day or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something of that nature. But we will follow this and just see where we go from now. I'm still trying to get used to trading and stuff in this game. It's kind of difficult to find a trade and things of that nature. So as you can see, our rankings, losing Terminal Sledge definitely dropped a lot of our rankings quite a bit, but I think the game is being a little bit dramatic about that. We're definitely not going to be starting Will Cordero in center field. We're going to probably move Endy Chavez there, and then maybe even put Matt Holliday in left, and then let Ivan Vucarino play every day at first again, and then see how that goes, and if that's really if it's not working out for us, if we're seeing our offense really struggle a lot, then we could try and put in Nate Bruce in left, or we can call up Woody Cordero and just let that happen, let that experiment start on its own. So we have the pieces in place here. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm cooking, what my thought process is here as we move ahead. I know we had some extra bats between New Orleans and even our Major League team. We have a great offense, and just losing one of those bats isn't really going to tank it, despite what the ratings in the games say, by adding in Will Cordero into the everyday lineup. But no, I think we had at least one extra bat that we could spare, and I think it was Terminal Sledge, just because he's a guy who's very good for what he's doing, his role on the team here. He's really kind of being wasted on this team, and I knew we could get just some kind of influx of players into our system by just getting rid of them. So that's what I did. And then I added us one more arm. I could try and make a move for getting rid of Sunwoo Kim, but that would just be a prospect move. We don't have a budding starter that I'm ready to put in that spot quite yet. Obviously, we have Parra down in Double-A, and then we have a pitching prospect or two as a starter that we're also looking at here, but like Michael Grace, our first pick from last year, but I'd like to give those guys a little bit more time. I don't want to rush anyone's development here and just, see if we can just force something to work if it's not going to work. So, but either way, that's going to do it for this video here, for this offseason video. It was longer than I anticipated it to be, but I'm going to move around the lineups and stuff, and then, of course, you will see the fruits of that labor in the next video when we cover August, the month of August, and see if we can keep to our winning ways. Hopefully we haven't drastically upset the chemistry of this team and how things kind of function, and hopefully our trade acquisitions work out in our favor. So hope to see you guys in the next video when we cover August.